Behind the Mirror of Music with Dannii Cohen.
Hello and welcome to Behind the Mirror of Music. My name is Dannii Cohen. This week's guest is Mike Sterling. Mike Sterling performed the roles of both the Phantom and Raoul in Andrew Lloyd Webber's Mike Sterling performed the roles of both the Phantom and Raoul in Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Phantom of the Opera, as well as Marius and Jean Valjean in Les Misérables. He also starred as Juan Perón in Evita and much more. Next to performing on stage, Mike is also a beloved concert performer, both in the UK and Asia. Especially for Phantom of the Opera fans, there's a second part of this interview where Mike gives his thoughts on all things Phantom and Erik, which was recorded for the 2021 Phantoms for Leroux benefit.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you this. There we go.
Fabulous.
Because we've got the hide and everything inside. Can you see?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's mine. It's his mine. So yeah, it's got a little crack in it. That's fine. So I just have to be careful with it. It got cracked on stage actually. That broke. So yeah, no, it's my little prized possession.
I hope you will enjoy the show.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Well, okay. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, thank you.
When did you decide you wanted to work in musical theatre?
Good question. I actually, our little friend, our dear friend, Peter Carey, comes into this story. And I'll tell you why. When I was 18, for a surprise, I was taken to watch Les Misérables. And that was in 1988. It's my 18th birthday. And I went in and I didn't know what to expect. And if I'm truthful, I wasn't like really excited to see it. I didn't know much about it. I wasn't in musical theatre then. I came from television, really. So I was doing TV and things like that. So I didn't know much about it. And to forget those times, there was no social media. You know, everything you knew would be from the direct marketing to do with the marketing department from, say, Cameron Mackintosh and so forth and whatever. And it's when leaflets and flyers went out, it was in the paper or it was mentioned on TV. You didn't have internet. There was no internet. So you couldn't search for anything. So you only knew about it really by people that had gone to see it, or they said, oh, listen to this CD, it's great, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't know much about it at all. And I'd got all the CD and listened to some of the songs and just before I saw it, but I didn't know I was going to see it. And that was about 3 days, I think, before I actually was surprised with it. So I didn't get a chance to have a good listen, really. So I wasn't that excited in that sense, like I was, say, when I knew all about Phantom eventually, as also. But you know what? I went to see Les Mis, and I absolutely couldn't. I couldn't believe it. It blew me sideways, and especially Peter Carey as Valjean. I just said after I saw all that, I went, "Wow, that's what I want to do." When I was 18, and I went backstage to see Peter. Didn't know him. I just went backstage, and I said, I knew he was from Wales, you see, because I read the programme. So I said, all right, so I just went, oh yes, it's Mike Sterling to see Peter Carey. Just like that, like you kind of thing. And well, not that I was kind of overconfident or anything, but I just said, and he said, oh yes, you said go up. And I went, what? You know, really? So I went up and said, hi, Peter, it's Mike Sterling. I said, we have a mutual friend, which we did, because a friend of mine used to write music for Peter and wrote music. I used to play the organ for him. And when he did the clubs years and years ago, like I'd done as well. And he said, oh, come in, you know, let's have a chat. And he sat down, said, ever so nice, gave me a drink. We had a chat. And he said, I tell you what, you would make a really good Marius. And I went, really? He said, oh, yeah, it's all over you. It's written all over your face. "Do you like the show?" I said, "I loved the show." I mean, I was still emotional at this point. I was still like hit by it. And 3 years later, I rang Peter up and said, "Guess what, Pete?" He said, "What?" I said, "I've just been accepted into the show. I auditioned. They said, we want you in." And that was 3 years later, 1991.
Fabulous.
So quick. Yeah, I know. Quick work. So, I mean, no one's more surprised than me, really. So that was my first job. And that's the reason why I wanted to go in, is because of Peter, really. You know, he's a legend, you know, Pete. He's been around a long time. And yeah, that was 33 years ago. So it's quite something, isn't it? Would think, but where's that time gone? Wow.
Really goes
But yeah,
fast.
that was the start. That was the start of it all.
What is your biggest Phantom stage memory?
Greatest, probably. You mean getting a role, or just a moment, or
Best thing, one of the best things you've experienced.
I have to say, because it's so different and unique, and because it was so unexpected. It was in 1994, and I was 24 years old. I was playing Raoul in Manchester, the new production up there, and I think I might have mentioned this before. And the company manager knocked on my door. He knocked on the door, and I said, "Come in." He came in. He said, "Mike, got a question for you." I said, "What's that?" "Don't forget, I'm playing Raoul, okay?" He said, "Just could you play the Phantom today?" And I went, "Pardon? Are you winding me up?" He said, "No, this is serious." He's come in, his voice is gone, he's got all the makeup on, he's all ready to go on, he's all ready to go on. He's cracking on his Fs or something. Well, then he's probably in trouble then if he's cracking on Fs. Okay, are we going to do this? And I just went, okay, let's deal with that one first. Because I actually teched it, because they wanted me to look at the role, you see. So I looked at the role, and I'd sort of come in and made some notes, and I'd sort of teched, you know, when everyone was rehearsing and everything, and I joined in some of the calls. Even though I'm doing the show in the evening as well, I joined in some of the calls, and I had actually teched Act One. I had no costumes, had nothing, no mask, nothing, just in my head. I kind of knew where to be, and you know I knew the role, you know, as far as that's concerned. And I teched it, and I kind of knew some of the blocking, you know, the blocking for it, but not Act Two. I haven't a clue. So let's just do Act One, and then in the interval, we'll look at Act Two. I'm serious. That's how it happened. So I had the Star Trap to do. I had the Angel. Not the Angel. Sorry, the Mausoleum. I had all that to work out. Fire and the Bulls, or whatever. I had the chair to disappear when he disappears, and the magic trick of the chair. Everything to sort out. Right, too. But that's where most of the tricks sort of happen. Really, the big tricks, and of course down the trap door, masquerade.
Yes.
You know, that's the fall in 0.3 seconds, 0.3 of a second. That's how quick that is. I mean, it's unbelievable. So, yeah, but I remember sitting in my, so the feeling is, I'm sitting in my room as Raoul, in my dressing room. Now that I'm thinking, okay, I'm feeling a bit tired, actually, because it's a Thursday. I'm feeling really tired. And then my door's knocked, and suddenly it's like I had 2 million volts put through me. I went, what? And then me thinking that I'm tired, and then about 40 minutes later, because it's 20 minutes before the show starts, it takes about 20 minutes before the Phantom comes on. Well, 40 minutes later, I was doing "And in This Labyrinth," right? Bizarre, but the most incredible feeling, because everyone was watching on the side of the stage. They couldn't believe it. And even the audience going, "The Phantom will be played by who? What?" You could see people just talking to it. And I was down there listening to that, like my announcement, "Today the role will be played by Mike Sterling." Well, I was kind of, they knew me up in that neck of the woods by then, because I'd already done Marius and I'd done Raoul, and it was a very big sort of PR and press about it, you know, so everyone know who was doing the various roles. So they were confused, you know, like everybody else. So it was that was probably the most greatest moment. And I mean, the adrenaline was immense. So that, I think, it's probably the first time. I think this, and come close up to that, then, is probably with Cameron taking me in the office and offering me the role himself when I came to London, and then did it full time down in London in '98. So yeah, it was. It's a phantom moment again, you see, you know. So yeah, that was yeah, good. And close back to that then in business is probably doing the first concert after the lockdown. That was bizarre, but also quite emotional. Do you know what I mean? It's weird, very strange, very strange. It's never happened to see, you know. It's a long answer, but it's difficult. You know, it's a difficult one to answer, but that is definitely it. I think first time, 20 minutes notice to go on as a Phantom after never playing it, not even fully rehearsing it. Just, you're on, mate. You know.
Must have really been an amazing evening.
Oh, I mean, the drinks after was something else, but I couldn't go too mad because I was on the next day. You know, so I was on the Friday, then I did 2 on the Saturday, then I did on a Monday. So I had a run of about 6 on the trot, which is great.
Yes.
After, you know, many studies have hardly been on at all. I mean, Dave Willits was there, apart from when he unfortunately injured himself as the year before. Dave never went off. Dave never went off. Just never went off. It was just incredible. But then he had an accident when he fell out of the travelator for the mausoleum, which is horrendous. And I remember being there. But then again, he was still on the offer, I think, for about 2 weeks. You know, and he was very badly hurt. But apart from that, he never went off. So yeah, apart from he had the odd holiday, you know, he did have the odd holiday, but that was it. He never went off ill. You know, apart from that time. So I was very lucky, really, and then, of course, going to London, consequently, I got a lot, but yeah, it was quite something, you know.
Someone asked me to ask you if you would ever record a duet with Ethan.
I'd love to. And in fact, I mean, you know, chat to Ethan about possibly, we've talked a few times about trying to get something together either in Germany or whatever. You know, it'd be great to do. But I'd love to record with Ethan. I mean, Ethan and I first met up in Blackpool, and it was the tribute to Lord Bernard Delfont, who, you know, Delfont, well, it's now Delfont Macintosh, right? Theatres. Well, Bernard Delfont was like the big cheese, you know, with theatre owner and promoter and things like that. He owned the theatres, really, you know. So we did the big tribute to Bernard Delfont in the Winter Gardens in Blackpool, and I was up there for the Phantom thing. It was like a Raoul thing, and Ethan was doing. I was doing like the All Ask of You and that with Christine, and Ethan was there doing the Phantom bits, you know. So I think it was me and Lisa. I think it was Lisa Hull, and yeah, and Ethan was in town at the time. Was it Lisa or was it? I can't. Do you know what? There's been so many Christines, and to pinpoint certain days, you know, it's you know, and the persons could be there. But I think it might have been Lisa Hull, because I know that Darren Day was also there with Joseph, and it was that time. So that's when I meet Ethan, and we shared a dressing room. I remember a very funny story. I didn't know. I'm in the dressing room. I'm in the dressing room on my own, right? So I think. And I went, Se qualche ieri fossi, segno sovera vera se. And then I heard, ba, 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 ba. And that was Ethan in the shower doing the trumpets. So that was the first. So we have actually sung a little duet together when he's in the shower and I was in the dressing room. It's so funny. So funny. So yeah, I would love to do a duet with Ethan. You know, he's great. I think it'd be quite exciting. We could do something like You are some gums to you. Just, you know that one from City of
Yes.
Angels? That would be a good one. We could do various. We could even do duet versions of stuff. This is the moment, or something like that.
Yes.
We could do anything really. So yeah, we'll have to chat. The chat with the man, with the Doctor Phantom. He's the Doctor Phantom, isn't he? He's like, so I love how intense he is, you know, with it. He really does, you know. I think when I saw it, probably the deepest sort of Phantom I'd, you know, and he doesn't mind sharing it. Do you know what I love about Ethan? He doesn't mind sharing that in-depth thing about Erik, you know. So, so yeah, I learned a bit from him. So that was good. We were just overlapping eras, Ethan and I. But so it'd be quite exciting.
Your time on Les Misérables, what was that like?
Les Mis, quite incredible. I mean, that's, of course, I was in the show in London for 10 months. I did 10 months in London, and then I transferred to Manchester to play Marius. So I was in the ensemble in London, and I covered Enjolras, and I probably did about 150 performances of Enjolras, and then maybe more. And then I went to Manchester to play Marius. And of course, in Manchester, that's my first daughter was born when I did that role. And then that was great. We did 18 months there. And then I returned sort of nearly 10 years, so 9 years later, to London to play Valjean, which was an incredible moment, really. I was actually in Italy at the time on holiday, and I was sitting with Callum MacLeod. No, Callum MacLeod is Michael Ball's musical director, and Callum was in the last orchestra of Phantom, you know, before it closed. And Callum, like many of them, have been there since the beginning. So Callum was just like assistant MD and on piano, and because obviously he's Michael's musical director, Michael Ball. So he was with me and his wife Michelle. We were sitting down on a sun lounger in Tuscany, the villa, and Trevor Jackson rang me from Cameron's office and said, "Hi, Mike, it's Trevor." He said, Cameron was just saying it's about time you know, what a bit of Valjean, dear. And I went, and that's how it happened. That's how it happened. I went, Callum. So I muted for a bit, and I went, Callum, it's Trevor Jackson on the phone. He's just asked me to play Valjean, and because Callum's got a great laugh. He went, "You're joking, really?" And I went, "Well, I think we get that another bottle open then, Mike, you know." And so, of course, I said, "Trev, yeah, I'm on holiday at the moment, but yeah, I'll come back. When I come back, we can get all the particulars sorted out." And yeah, that was, but it was a wonderful time in Les Mis. I mean, Les Mis was very, very special. Certainly Manchester, I mean, we kind of started the West End of the North, really, with the big blockbusting show. No show had run for that long, ever, in the history of provincial theatre. Never. So it wasn't just a tour, because normally you do like a couple of months at most, or a month at most, and then you'd go with a big show like that. Oh, touring really is a week now, isn't it? Every venue is a week. You know, I mean, with Evita, with 26 venues in as many weeks. So it's as you say, it's, you know, 6 months right through. So and 8 shows, but Manchester, you know, Les Mis, we did 18 months. We had to keep extending, and that held the record for the most advanced bookings for a provincial show. So many million, and the advanced bookings. But Phantom then came along and stole that title, and I think it was something like, before it opened, Phantom took 7 million.
Wow.
In advance bookings. So that's quite something, really, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, so it's a £4 million production or something, and then it takes 7 million in advance bookings. Wow, paid for it, done. You know, so the power of the mask game. But Les Mis will always be. They both will bookend, really, my sort of time in theatre. I mean, you can't really. It's difficult to choose from the two, because I equally have a love for each character, immense love, you know. So, but yeah, Les Mis is Les Mis is the only musical that has the title, the People's Musical. No other musical has that. The People's Musical, the People's Show, the People's Musical. I know, and the only one I think that comes close to that probably is Sound of Music or something like that, but it doesn't have that. It doesn't have that title. Wonderful, wonderful piece. I mean, genius piece. But Les Mis is quite phenomenal. There'll never be anything like that. No show, no matter when it opens, how successful it is. I mean, Hamilton's probably the one that's done well, but it'll never ever touch Les Mis. No show will, not ever. Not, I don't believe anyway. It's just, and it was a time of musical theatre which was quite exciting because it was all pioneered, wasn't it? It's the pioneer of the new sort of show, new musical. It was done differently. It was much more involved. It was the design, the sets, the way that it was designed like a film. It was just something else, really. So yeah, Les Mis will always go down as the most successful musical of all time, really.
It was a great era to be a musical fan as well, because it was so big that it was on TV shows and you could see musical everywhere. It was really like it was more accepted somehow even than it is now. Something
exactly. Yeah. It just transformed how musical theatre was presented and how it was done, and the style of the piece is so unique. You see, it's an opera, a rock opera, Les Misérables, without a doubt, because it's all sung. It's sung all the way through, but it's a rock opera, and it works really well. It works, and it always has worked really well. I mean, my Valjean, it would change sometimes. Sometimes it'll be a bit rocky. Sometimes it'd be a bit more, how can I say, I won't say straightforward because Valjean is not straightforward, but it depends how you feel. It's just a change, and depending how I felt on the day, and it's just taken the journey fresh all the time. So depending on, and it would change sometimes. Sometimes people would say, "Oh, that was really rocky. That was edgy today, Mike. That was really dangerous." Or sometimes you could be a little bit, maybe it was a bit more subtle. But no, generally my Valjean was far from subtle. when he was an animal kicking off, he kicked off. Then he was tender. When he was steadfast and strong, he was. And then, as you say, when he's weak, he was weak. I mean, it's such a journey to take, and probably one of the greatest journeys I've ever taken in any role is in that show. So it'll always that'll always stay with me, really.
Do you have any dreams or plans for the future in your career?
Any dreams and plans? It's a good question, and people often get asked that. Dreams and plans. I like to, obviously it's nice to plan things, but I also like to really soak up the present. So you can plan things, or you get sort of opportunities. If you, as you say, if you're talking career-wise as plans and dreams, you get opportunities, and then of course sometime in the future. So you're planning your journey, but the present is vital to me. It's very important to me. And I don't like to dwell on past. I like to talk about. There's this thing where we often we forget what we should remember, and we remember what we should forget. And I like creating new memories. Well, you can only do that from present, can't you? So I suppose your present is your future and your past, because you create new memories. And I suppose that's how I survived over the years. When look, things happen to everybody. We have adversities and things, but it's not the adversities, how you deal with it. So I'd like to be, my dream is to just always to keep smiling, to keep enjoying my work, to, and that's the career side of it. But it's a big part of me is the family side of it. And I've got 5 children. I've got 3 grandchildren. And I've got a massive family. in Wales. I mean, just on my mother's side, on bloodline side, is like 158 or something like that. It's huge. I know, and that's just my mother's brothers and sisters and the children from the marriages. That's without the husbands they married. Do you know? It's that's just bloodline as a result from that side of the family. It's 158, 159 in counting. And I added 3 to that, you know, with my grandchildren over the last 2 years. So so I think my dream was just to just be able to be around long enough to really enjoy and watch them grow up, watch them, be there for them, and yeah, sing as long as I possibly can, act as long as I possibly can, and just really enjoy my life. And I think anything that is big in a sense as an opportunity is a bonus. So I think yeah, I just hope, dream is that we get back to, you know, that the world can get back to normal, that people can resume their things. And I would like to see a lot more kindness too in the world. That's another dream I have, is just to people to think a bit more, you know, and think of consequence, think of all kinds of things before they act on it, or learn from their mistakes, whatever it is. So that's my kind of dream. I know it sounds very sort of idealistic, but I guess having done so many different roles, you learn. I think you learn from time. A lot of them are kind of real scenarios, or they come from something from a time that, yeah, you could see that sort of happening. So you do your research around that time, around that era, and so forth. And as you see, things have grown, like anything. If you're too previous about things all the time, you'll never live. And that's as great a shame as, yeah, being locked up because of it, you know. So I just think people need to relax their mind, but also, you know, have faith, but also be careful. So I have a dream that we can all now get back to theatre, and then whatever, and not just theatre, it's every business, isn't it? It's every business that's associated with theatre. There's probably hundreds. There's hundreds of businesses which rely on concerts and, you know, the big arenas and the theatres and everything else. I mean, taxis and buses and trains and no, even car parks. I mean, you know, it's a basic. Let's get basic. And then you've got the bars and restaurants, yes, merchandise, and that's with every business. We could go on all day, couldn't we? Yes. And hotels and yeah, here we go, the London tours. But I think what the government are missing is that all the revenue that comes from that. This is why we've got a bit cross with the government in our business, saying we're not viable and things like that. You heard that recently, right? And so not viable, really. Well, why don't you take out a third of the public purse from all the taxes and every single thing that is taken to the public purse, right, in taxes, to spend on national health and all that sort of stuff, any cost that has to be met. Well, a third will come from theatre, live entertainment, everything, the VAT and the tickets, whatever it is. Some of it goes around in circles, fair enough, with that VAT business. But all the revenue that comes from every single business that associated, well, they wouldn't operate if it wasn't for theatre or concerts or arenas. Do you know? Yes. So I think they're kind of missing that. I want them to just get Cameron and Lloyd Webber and Bill Kenwright and all these big producers and the big concert producers, and get them in and say, because the government don't understand how our business works, not really. So they need to get them in and say, right, what can we do to help you? Because you're going to get more money in the public purse if you do that. Come on, you know. So, and they're not, I can't believe that's being missed, really. So that's a dream. I want them to, that's another dream. I want that to be a reality where they, for small theatres and small production companies, get rid of the VAT for them, you know, maybe on the tickets. Obviously, it'll give people a chance to grow, and then they'll probably grow to bigger producers, and then they will pay the 17.5 or 20%, whatever it is. You see, so I think I'd like to see some of that. That's a dream. The support, the more the business is supported, the greater it'll become, the more money it'll make. The more money it makes, better off our country is. The better the business is. And it's such, I can't believe they're missing it. So, yeah. So you asked me one question about a dream. It's very difficult, you see, Dannii. It's so many, but I hope from what I've said gives an idea of where I fit in all of this. I'll just be healthy, really, and just, as I say, be able to be around long enough to see everything grow, you know, and yeah, enjoy what I do, and it's all a positive cycle, then, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
Hi, Mike. Did you know much about Phantom before you auditioned?
Right. No, because when I first, actually, when I first any kind of Phantom of the opera, I was 17 actually, and I did what was the equivalent of the X Factor back in 1987 with a show called New Faces, which was back in, which was filmed up in Birmingham, and I was told before I went on that to listen to Music of the Night, and my friend said to me, if you do that song, I'm telling you, it'll do really well for you. I listened to it and I absolutely freaked and went, wow, that's an amazing piece. I just don't think I'm capable of that. So I chose a Chopin piece, and I did the Chopin piece. Did very well for me, and then as time went on, I started to learn Music of the Night and started to get into more of Andrew Lloyd Webber music. But and then as time progressed, but because I did Les Mis, of course, before Phantom, and in 1991 I auditioned for Les Mis. I went to Les Mis. I was in the company in London for 10 months, went to Manchester, did 18 months, and then I auditioned for Raoul. It was then I started to kind of get into a bit more about the book, but I was more into the Raoul character, of course, at the time. But the music was so powerful that it really kind of spoke to me, and it gripped me for vast proportions of the day, I would say. And now I'm, of course, with the history as it presents itself, you can see exactly why it did and how it did, and certainly they were very, very moved by the story of Erik, and that sort of came later, really. That came later and deeper as time went on.
What do you think is different between the book and the musical, and what inspired you in your performance of Erik?
Of course, the thing with books is they can go into such detail because, unlike a musical, and unlike a film has a director, producer, and so forth and so on, but particularly a director that's taking it a certain way. And same with a musical. I mean, obviously, reading a book, you're kind of like your own director. You're your own light designer because you're kind of making up these visions in your head. And I found the book quite vivid and very very, very inspiring and informative. Certainly, the way that it was describing the Paris Opera House and all these caverns and everything underground, and Erik, and certainly about with regards to his first sort of or memory rather that I used to draw on quite a lot, that he used to recall things like the mask going on the face as soon as he was born. And when you think about it, very, very little human contact, because his mother, just as soon as she was born, stuck a mask on his face and was repulsed. So really didn't really much human contact. So where did you hear that story? That's the thing that strikes me really about that. But I used to draw on a lot of things that I heard from the book, and it was very immersing, you know. It's very deep. Gaston's book is very, very deep, and it's very, very helpful. And I found it most revealing in lots of ways. So you get chapters and chapters. You know, you get lots of things like Bouquet, for example, who's a small little part a smaller part rather in the show. Madame Giry, for example, you know, there's so much more depth to do with all these incredible characters, and Carlotta, Bianchi, you know, all that sort of depth there. So the book was certainly it's good, I think, as far as the reference is concerned, to really understand what is going on, what people are saying about you, certainly as the role. But of course, then you've got to kind of take it organically when you're doing a role like Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera. It's a different work, and it's to work in a different way, because there's a lot of information to portray, but you don't have the length of time, you know, people have within a book to relay that. So it's a lot more condensed, but the book is certainly helpful. You know, you've got the information then to use.
Could you relate to Erik and his pain?
Well, I can tell you that I didn't know, you know, when I first took on the role, when I first played the role, actually, I wasn't actually playing the Phantom. I was playing Raoul, and I was thrown on. I was thrown on one night after 20 minutes. 20 minutes before the show started, I was asked, could I go on and play the Phantom, because his voice was going and everything else, and he had some throat problems. So, I'd been looking at the role because Andrew had asked me to look at it, and Cameron McIntosh, and said, look, we want to kind of see how you go with this. And I'd been looking at the role, and I'd turning up rehearsals and things, and understudy calls, etc. But of course, I'm doing a lead 8 times a week, so it was tough, because, you know, you had to kind of come in for calls and things, as well as doing a main role. But I found it most enjoyable, actually. But I didn't expect to be thrown on at 20 minutes notice. So I got into that. I didn't really, when I got into that, rather, I didn't have the life experience, I think, that I had later on. And when I actually took on the role of the Phantom full time in 1999, I mean, I was playing it one time 4 nights a week as Raoul, 4 nights a week as Phantom. That was scheduled for 6 to 8 months or more. So but it was on 99 when I took on the role, you know, because I was going through a breakup, I was going through a marriage, a divorce, and of course, it was difficult with contact with the children and everything else. And certainly, there's one scene that always gets me, which was at the end, very end, which says it all really, when she goes off and gives him the ring back. After he says, Christine, I love you, and she goes off in the boat with Raoul, and he comes and he comes on stage and he sees the veil, when the veil is on the floor. Of course, I'm talking about the Phantom of the Opera, the musical, but when he sees the veil on the floor, and he just completely melts down, and something that really got me interested with that. It's an interesting thing to do with that, should I say, was that it was a remnant that was sort of left behind. It was a symbol of this bride that he'd created, and he'd fallen in love with her voice, but more madly in love with the girl to such it became an obsession, and nobody else was, you know, allowed to go near her, and she had to play every role, every lead, I mean, she couldn't be with Raoul, of course not. I mean, it was a total obsession in that sense. It's all about her, and to have that obsession, and also, but it's not. See, to him it wasn't obsession. To him it was right. It was, he was doing everything right, and he was protecting her. But that thing at the end, when all the buttons he presses doesn't work, and then the veil is left at the end, I used to lose it completely. And I tell you what, really, sort of, when I really found that moment, and how that was so symbolic, was that my children used to come and stay with me during this difficult time when I was going through the breakup and things, and not seeing much of the young children. And they would come and stay, and then of course I'd take them back, and just before I'd go to the show, you know, I'd notice I'd look across the room and I go, oh, they've left their coat, or they've left, but more importantly, they left a toy. One of them had left a toy behind, and I was to just break my heart, really. See that? That's Freddie's toy. That's not Posey's toy, or, you know, whoever had left it behind. It was just like, and I'd sit and hold it and just absolutely lose myself in that moment, you know. Once I brought that, I understood then as an actor. I understood, and I think that's when I really, really, really started to develop that empathy for Erik, for the Phantom, and totally understand that pain, and certainly of that moment of the veil was like, for me, it was like the moment of that toy left behind, or that doll left behind, you know. And it was, I think for me, it was one of the most powerful moments of the show. So simple, but you know, no dialogue, no, nothing, just a scene, a moment, and it was just very, very powerful. To perform the role, how does it feel? Right. Firstly, exhausting. I mean, that's obviously afterwards, but when you're actually really in the various moments, and certainly with regards to the changes of the various, to play them honestly, the changes of personalities within Erik was quite. It was very, very. It was very direct, and it was most efficient. Very efficient. It was like snap, 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 snap. It would go in and out of different things, because that's always. It's not like he was trying to do these things. This is how his mind was working to survive, I think, because I think, you know, he for so long he'd lived this life as a recluse, but had such a lot of anger, I think, and rightfully so, on the way that he'd been treated for so long. But there was kindness, you know, within him. There was love. There was that majestic side. That was that childlike side. There was the frantic musician, the genius, the designer, the magician. The whole. There was so many different sides. And yeah, I mean, we've all got different sides to us, and somebody wrongs us, you know, we all react in different ways. And but Erik's process with changing from different things, and how the text would relay that, was very, very, very urgent. I'm saying very, very efficient, certainly, and as you know, the effect from the audience point of view, it was intense, and I felt it was an absolute privilege to play that role. And I mean, I'd love to play it again. I mean, I'm still not too old, I don't think, but it was intense. And I think as well, being in the show too, you know, within the people that you knew and the directors you knew, I was in it at a time which was such a magic time for musical theatre in general. And of course, it wasn't that long really after the show had opened, so there was still that excitement about Phantom, and certainly the level of you know, sort of pride to play a role like that, and be so blessed to have that, you know, every night, you know, 8 nights a week, in fact, was just, it's nothing like it really. There's nothing like it.
Does it differ greatly from playing Raoul?
How does it differ from Raoul? Like chalk and cheese. I mean, I think there was certainly something which Erik would see in Raoul that he was obviously jealous of. He was jealous of the fact that obviously Christine was getting close to him, and he didn't like that because he was, you know, losing control. And that's one of the things where, again, we study this kind of coercive coercive behavior that some people put upon others, which is, of course, very abusive. But he didn't see that as being wrong. As again, is what he felt and what he did. And of course, somebody whispering in somebody's ear about something that somebody said, and that person that has said that wants them to go a certain way. But of course, somebody else pulls them away from it, and she's hearing these things, and he doesn't believe her, but yet he's doing it in such a way. Certainly, the way I played Raoul was I didn't say to Christine, "Oh, stop it! It's all fables," don't, because that's sort of insulting her intelligence, really, and that's I think invalidating her feelings as well. And that's the way I played Raoul, that I never invalidated what she said. And I've seen him in his eyes that are blazing, and it's his darkness, and he speaks to me from the mirror, or whatever she says. I'm like, well, look, if I believe it, if you believe it, I'm serious. We need to talk about this, but I just want to let you know I'm here, and I will look after you. It doesn't matter whatever it is. If this is real, this is going on, then I'm here to protect you. No one's going to come, sort of against that. And I think, of course, he listens to everything, Phantom. So he, it's a complete. He was like the braving suitor, the nemesis. He was no match for Erik, of course. And I think everyone knows that. He knew that eventually when he realised it was real. So, but I think the difference was chalk and cheese. But yeah, I actually played them both. 4 times a week Raoul, 4 times a week Phantom, and all I can say, it was total chalk and cheese. The characters, you can't get 2 different approaches for a role, really, but not just vocally, but in every way. I mean, and of course, psychologically would change everything you did about Phantom, whatever you felt. And it was never the same every night. Just like Raoul wasn't the same, really, but completely different individuals. And of course, don't forget, Raoul, as I say, was the Vicomte de Chagny. He'd become from a very, very privileged background. And of course, Phantom had come from the most, deprived sort of situation and abuse, really. So it's very, very interesting. I'd like to dig more, and I think this, even though I played it over 1,000 times, I would love to dig more with the Phantom. And I'm too old to play Raoul now, so that's probably out of it. But I can coach, and I can, and I certainly am still passionate, and I have recently coached other people with regards to the duo that is Christine and Raoul, and it's very exciting. But yeah, totally different human beings completely, but I had great fun, equal fun playing both.
Is there anything you would like to say to the fans?
Hello, all you wonderful Phantom fans. I would like to say, and I've not really had this opportunity for a while, thank you, and thank you for everything that you have given me, really, and what you've given the show, because really it is down to your absolute dedication to support us and follow us for all these years, it's one of these phenomenons which doesn't come around very often, and I share whatever you feel. I share with you your passion and everything else to do with the Phantom of the Opera, and I thank you for your solidarity and your support and dedication, to us for so many years. And I've had such a wonderful time doing both roles, both Raoul and the Phantom, 5 years in total. So I've been blessed, and it's always been a delight to see you guys after the show, before the show, out and about sometimes, sometimes I bump into people in town when I'm walking about, and it's always great to see. But I do think every show does, we do need you, and we do appreciate you, and we do appreciate what you've given to us for the last, let me see, 35 years nearly. It's quite phenomenal. And I know there's new, of course, fans of Phantom, and of course we've got the long-standing ones that've been around since the beginning, and they've never waned. That's one thing I've found; it's never waned off. Once you're a fan of this show, I don't think it ever leaves you. Other shows will come along, but once something like this grabs you, typically Phantom, people have never ever left it. My friends, my colleagues, people that are not in my business, but they say, "Oh, Mike, but Phantom was just it. That was it, man." For them, some say Les Mis, some say, but Phantom is so powerful. So right, but now we're into the situation where we're at, where we can't express that, and you've not been able to go and see the various shows around the world, wherever you are listening to this. But it's sad. It's sad, but it's happened, but it doesn't mean it's over. And we will get back, and we will be better than ever. We will be, because and people in our business, whenever there's adversity in any situation, through wars, through anything else, and this has been very like a war, to be quite honest, is that there's always been our business to be there, to have people that to be able to escape for 2 hours, say in any whatever show you're in, particularly Phantom. They escape for 2.5 hours, forget about the world, and it's just about the world of the Phantom and the Opera. But that's the power of the piece. But it's taken the power of the fans and the people that have followed the show for so long to maintain that and to give it that prowess. And I thank them, and I thank you all immensely for that. But we will be back, and it will pass eventually, but I think we'll all be a lot closer for it. I think the business will be a lot closer for it, and I truly believe, and I must believe, and I will continue this, that thought that is the world will be much closer together. Best of luck as well for the restaurant, and I hope everything goes well. We'll keep supporting it, and I say to everybody, just really, support this cause. It's very, very important, not just to Gaston, but to Phantom of the Opera, to all you guys out there. So maybe we'll have dinner there one day. You never know. I might see you there. So sending lots of love, and thank you for everything over the years, and for being brave and really sort of sticking in with everything. And I just hope that you're all fine out there, and I send you loads and loads of love.
All good.
Thanks very much.
Look after yourself, darling. Bye-bye.
Bye. Speak soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Behind the Mirror of Music with Dannii Cohen.